With the championships all but wrapped up after last week's visit to Montreal, the drivers can shift their focus to securing a race win today here at Watkins Glen. Can another GTP challenger top Jacob Reed today? And will Mickey Friesen be able to buck his string of rough results to finish out the season strong in the GTOs? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch the final round of the iRacing IMSA Vintage series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Adam Lindgren, and joining me in the booth is Joseph Black. Our director is Daniel Costello, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Another true classic of a track for IMSA Vintage, Watkins Glen, in its classic boot layout, provides a great blend of high and medium speed corners throughout which the drivers can tackle. To find out why this is such a renowned track for the American sports car classics, let's take you down to our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Watkins Glen International. Situated in upstate New York, just south of the Finger Lakes, this track has seen it all. Few road circuits can boast hosting Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR, and IMSA during its history. Though it did have a brief fallow period in the early 80s, thanks to the investment of local companies, it's grown into one of the premier road tracks in the U.S. With 4 layouts to choose from that range between 2.5 and 3.5 miles in length, lap times can vary greatly. But it also means it's suitable for lots of different levels of racing, from amateur to pro. The one thing that stays consistent no matter which car and which layout you're using is that Watkins Glen means speed. Many of the straights are very long, and the majority of the corners are fast sweepers. Some of them include a surprising amount of banking as well. Combine that with the proximity of the barriers, and this historic circuit retains a very old-school feel. Drivers in lesser-powered cars can expect drafting battles, while higher-powered machinery will test the skill and bravery of their pilots. Some of the turns are visually iconic, such as the carousel and the S's. Others, like the inner loop, the chute, and turn 9, greatly challenge even the expertly skilled. And of course, we haven't even mentioned the drastic amount of elevation change drivers experience. Between its rich history and popularity among drivers, this track stays busy and seems likely to be that way for a long, long time.
Well, there we saw a lot of different cars around this track, but Joseph, this is a unique layout, especially for this unique series. Why don't you talk to us about how these cars are going to handle the Watkins Glen Classic boot layout?
Yeah, it's a very tight circuit in comparison to some of those that we head to here at Watkins Glen. Just the 11 corners, and every single one of them has walls not particularly close to you, but if you make any sort of mistake, then it could be throwing you right into them. And of course, when they're going side by side, you're not really thinking about the walls, you're thinking about the car next to you, and that could cause significant issues for you later on in case there's any sort of mistake from yourself or somebody else. You've got to trust the other drivers around the circuit, and I'd say that is probably the most important thing here at Watkins Glen.
It absolutely is. Another important thing the drivers have been paying attention to is the point standings for the season. The point standings are mostly wrapped up at this point, especially for the GTP's Jacob Reed. 222 points. That includes the drop week that was calculated going into this round. Nick Makanos, 68 points back. That's just how dominant Jacob has been over the course of this season. Shady Ahmad, not too far back, only 9 points back of Nick Makanos, so a good opportunity to try and take second position if Nick Makanos falls afoul of trouble, and if Shady has decided to show up today. I do not see him in the session currently, so it might be that he's in a different split. Krzysztof Lesniak, after a great charge to the field last week, pulls himself up to 4th position. Ilka Kodasalo in a distant 5th as well. Close behind Ilka is Brendan Lim. He's been very consistent this season, currently in 6th spot, with Gabriel Martinez, Pepe Fuentes, and Fabian Nugluth, as well as Brendan White, rounding out the top 10 in the GTP driver standings. But what about the GTOs, Joseph?
Jeroen van Hees leads the way, and we still got 3 drivers in contention, but Van Hees, with those 186 points, is looking in prime position to take the title home today. Nola Lundberg in that second place, 17 behind, and Mickey Friesen with 22 points in that 22 points behind Van Hees in that 3rd place. Henry Morse in at 4th on 35, and then a decently sized gap back to Josh Brain, and then Jonny Hagner and Philip Lake, just 1 point splitting the two, and they're not too far off of Brain either. Doug Cloud and Shane Hawkins a joint on points with 113, and Romain Bello rounding out the top 10.
And so let's take a look at what the drivers are going to be dealing with today as far as race details. It is the final round of the IMSA Vintage series for Season 3 of 2025. 40 minutes for these drivers. and open setups. They can set up the car however they like or dislike. They have a drive-through at 17 incidents, and that additional penalty for IMSA Vintage is a disqualification at 25 incidents. And those are definitely things that you can for sure rack up around here at the IMSA Vintage Classic layout. Qualifying is well underway. 5 minutes to go in qualifying. None of the drivers have yet to set a time. It's actually a fairly long track, even with the classic layout, Joseph.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, there is only 11 corners, but it's still 5.552 kilometers for the drivers to tackle, which is a pretty long. It's a pretty long circuit, all things considered. And Henning-Schweibig going up to the top with the 26.6, demonstrating the sort of pace that you'll be expecting and wanting to see today, with 4 minutes 29 left in the session. And it looks like it's going to be pretty close at the top limb. Not too far off that pole time, just within a tenth of a second of Schweibig in the GTPs. Of course, the Nissans much quicker, I think it's fair to say, than the GTOs, and we're going to be getting more times being thrown in within the next couple of minutes as they tackle the Watkins Glen International Circuits. It feels like they've got enough time for maybe 2 more push laps, and then we'll get our scraps for pole position. Schuster leads the Audi 90 GTO standings. Hagner in that second place, but there's a 3/10 gap between them, and then another 3/10 back to Reed. So considering the start, the GTP is much closer together than the GTOs.
Absolutely, but it's interesting to see that Jarno van Hicks was drifting on his opening lap before his qualifying lap, so possibly not too intent on pushing up forward. So black flag for him. Here is Joni Hagner coming around, currently in that second position, tucked in those 3/10 behind Schuster. You know that Yoni's got good qualifying pace, but he's going to have to make it work on his second of 2 qualifying laps that they have set out for today.
He certainly is, and at the moment trying to use the extremities of the track as Schweibig goes even faster at 26.4, finding 2/10 on his previous lap, and Joni Hagner has that little bit of time to find in the GTO class. He has just dropped down to 3rd place, Young going up into 2nd position. So Joni Hagner is going to try and beat 44.2, which is the time he has right now. But he's going to be wanting to breach the 43s. That is the target at the moment, and only one driver so far has managed to do it. Schuster. Young is just 3 thousandths of a second off, and Schuster at the moment just holding that position at the very top of this field. But then around the final couple of corners is Hagner going to come. He's got about 15 seconds to come up to the line and to set his time. A bit less now, coming down to about 7 seconds. Final corner, and Joni Hagner is going to come up to the line. Is this going to be a lap time that challenges Schuster? It looks like it's going to be a 43.894, so that's going to put him on that provisional GTO pole position.
That's a great lap from Joni Hagner, showing his proof right there. Noah Lundberg joining us in a GTP today, so abandoning his challenge for the GTO championship and joining us in the GTP. So he's currently qualified in the 5th position. Now, this is actually fairly standard for IMSA Vintage, for drivers who on the final round, if they feel like they're out of the championship, they'll jump into the other car and give it a try before entering into the next season. So interesting to see Noah Lundberg doing that. We'll keep our eyes out for other drivers who have done that over the course of today as well. Cal Young being one of those drivers who used to drive at the GTP quite often, now currently sitting in provisional 3rd position in the GTOs. Jarno van Hicks on his 3rd lap, but never served that black flag, so unfortunately he's not going to have any of his qualifying times count. Now that's interesting, Joseph, but I will say that with only I believe it's 12 GTOs here, it's going to be, he would have to not finish the race in order to lose the championship by any stretch of the imagination.
Hey, never say never. It's one of those things where the championship could swing in the favour of somebody else, and Hagner, and at the moment it's looking good for Van Heesch, and I think he's just going to have a little bit of fun in this final round. I think he knows the mathematics. I think he knows the situation, and he's going to want to round off his season on a positive note, and the positive note will be making many overtakes and trying to see what he's going to be able to do. Hamilton Barrera Ruiz is circling around the circuit at the moment in one of the GTP cars, and we get a great shot on board of Barrera Ruiz as he comes around and tries to set a good lap time with only 30 seconds left on the board. There's not much opportunity for these drivers to go in terms of setting a good qualifying time, or setting a qualifying time at all. Barrera Ruiz is going to get one more lap and one more stab at it with just the 10 seconds left, as he's going to cross the line. It's going to be a 44.7, which is not going to be an ideal time with Schweiberg up at the top. He's going to be in 8th place, so there is scope for him to improve. He's not going to improve though, and well, that's unfortunate for him. He's pushed as far as he thinks he can on that lap, and he's not going to be scrapping it out for pole.
Absolutely. So his 2 laps were completed, and the session will wrap up. The timer ticking down. It will immediately advance to the next session. This is the old qualifying standard for the iRacing that they take in IMSA Vintage, and that will take us to our starting grid. Our starting grid is going to start off with Henning Schweiberg, as we mentioned, on that pole position, very tightly followed by Nick Makanos. Nick just struggling to get poles this season. No matter where he turns, he's got a challenger who's been able to pip him for pole position. Brendan Lim in 3rd position, starting off row 2. Next to him is going to be Christoph Lesniak, lining up behind Makanos. Gabby Martinez and Noel Lundberg are going to round out row 3, with Gabby pipping Noel right at the end there. Ilka Kodosalo starting off row 4 with Seamus Power next to him. Farron Grau is going to be in 9th position, with Shady Ahmad, after a series of good qualifyings, is going to start off in 10th spot. So Shady is here, but just starting off in 10th. Fabian Nunbluth in 11th position, with Matthias Hovdal starting off in 12th spot. Henry Morse in 13th, and Carlos Lopez C starting off in 14th. Row 8 goes to Philip Lake and Antonio Alvarez, with John Petchik, the last driver to set a qualifying time. Jacob Reed is here, but did not set a qualifying time. He's going to try last to first challenge in this first split of 2. That rounds out your 18 GTPs. What about the GTOs, Joseph?
Well, I think both the championship leaders are going to do the same thing as Van Heesch. Looks like he's going to start from the back, but it's going to be Jenny Hagner at the top of this one. And Andreas Schuster lines up alongside him on the front row. Cal Young and Ian Haycox take that second row, but a 3/10 gap between Schuster and Young. That's a huge advantage for him. Another 2/10 back to Roman Bello and Timothy Reed, but it gets a lot tighter when you get to Jack David Spickett and Hamilton Barrera Ruiz. Mate Lorinci and Doug Cloud are going to round out your top 10 in the GTO class, and with 12 cars here today, it's unsurprising. That's we're going to have Tim Gaudry, the last qualifier, and Joran van Hixie in that 12th and final spot for the GTOs.
So it's a 30-car field out here for the GTPs and GTOs, which means we have 60 drivers join us for this race today, which means we're in the first of 2 splits, and that's going to make the racing in this top split very interesting. Now, with Jacob Reed rounding out the GTP field from the rear, that's going to make his charge through the field compress the field a little bit and make it a little bit more chaotic. It's going to be interesting as the Porsche pace car pulls us on to a full pace lap here around Watkins Glen.
Yes, a full lap around Watkins Glen just to kick us off, get those tyres warmed up and the drivers ready to... Of course, qualifying is a little bit of a different scenario where you're just sort of focusing on your own lap. This is where you start to have your focus change just that little bit, where you see those drivers around you and you just try and see what you're going to be able to do. You could trying to sight it out at this point, see how much space they're going to give you, how warmed up they are, how prepared they are, and potentially getting ready for an opportunity into the first couple of corners.
It may interest you. We talk about it a lot of the time when we're commentating these races, but the drivers start off with cold tires for about 2 laps on average in IMSA Vintage. Around here, it's going to be about the same. You may think, well, it's a long lap, Adam. Why is that? Well, there's not as many turns as you would expect, so the tires are still going to be cold starting lap 2. But you're maybe wondering why the drivers aren't making any effort to try and heat up their tires. That's because these vehicles still run on the older tire model, I think it was V5, and so they retain heat extremely well over the course of the race, and that means that by the end of the race, most of the time these cars, even in a 40-minute race, these cars have tires that are overheating. So they're in no rush to put temperature into those tires as they fall around the Porsche pace car into the boot.
Yes, and well, it's interesting, isn't it? The tyre model difference making a whole lot of difference, not only to the preparation but the subsequent racing, where they feel a little bit out of control of their preparation, but at the same time they're going to feel just that little bit more comfortable with their setup. So it's going to be a little bit of debate in the mind of the drivers, and we'll we'll see how they approach these first couple of laps. While they do try and get those tyres warmed up, the pace car still leading around the GTP class, which will be the first ones to take us off, and then the GTO class will follow suit.
So Brendan Lim getting a good qualifying in 3rd position. That's one of his better starts to a race in a while. Krzysztof Lesniak, after last week's charge of the field, is going to start off in 4th position. It'll be interesting to see whether or not he can get to the front and challenge Nick Mecanos and Schweibig for that lead of the GTP field. And then, of course, Jacob Reed starting from the back. Can he complete the last and first challenge? We've seen Andreas Valenteus do that multiple times this season. Can Jacob Reed accomplish it today? In the GTOs, Joni Hagner with a great qualifying to put himself ahead of Andreas Schuster. Cal Young, his first season back in the series, and he just chooses to be in the GTOs. He starts off in 3rd position today with Ian Haycox with a great qualifying as well in 4th spot. And then Timothy Reed, who made the switch from the GTOs to the GTPs this season, he jumps back into the GTOs again, and the GTPs have started the race. Henry Schweibig with a good jump over Nick Mecanos. Brendan Lim in that 3rd position is going to fall into line with Krzysztof Lesniak in a solid 4th. It's side by side between Gavin Martinez and Noah Lundberg as they go through turn 1. But it's clean for the GTOs. How about the GTOs, Joseph?
As Hagner leads us away, and Schuster's going to tail him into the first corner, but I think he's just going to stay behind for the time being, not seeing the need to go to the inside in the first corner. But Bello is going to do a different thing. He's going to try and get past Jack David Spickett for 5th place, but that's battle in the GTPs. It's getting all so tight up the top, and there's a driver off the circuit in the background.
Yeah, it's a Lesniak who goes off in the background as Nick Mecanos makes the draft pass on Henrik Schweibig up through the, well, there usually is the bus stop, but it's removed for the classic layout, so Nick Mecanos is able to do a nice draft pass into the carousel, able to get past Schweibig. But Krzysztof Lesniak stuck on the outside, or on the outside of Seamus Power, so Lesniak's idea to charge from 4th position up to the lead starts off with a -2.
Yes, not an ideal start for Lesniak, and he might come under pressure very soon. Lundberg, though, I think he's run a little bit wide, and he's going to come under pressure from Grau for that 7th place. He's going to try to go the long way around the outside, but just keeping the line tight is Lundberg, and he's able to hold on to that 7th place for now and keep hoping to apply the pressure onto the back of Lesniak as they head through this first lap, and they head through the 40 minutes, and we are going to have the first completed. Mecanos leading the way in GTPs, and I think Schuster's still going to lead the way in the GTOs. But Joni Hagner is shaping up a move on him, in fact, and looking to the inside. Schuster runs that little bit wide, opening up the door for Hagner and creating the space, but Hagner not taking it on this occasion, just outbraking himself, I think, a little bit, and so his exit wasn't great, so he stays behind in P2.
Yeah, Cal Young took a look up the inside of Joni Hagner. Joni closed the door off. It was Andreas Schuster who was wide through that turn. Joni Hagner took the inside line, but just couldn't keep the power in because he didn't want to run into Schuster. So fortunately for Schuster, he maintains that position, but we're going to see that draft as they come through the S's for the first time at full speed. Remember, the tires are still going to be a little cold, but they're not going to have to worry about that because it's the carousel at the end of this long straight, so they get the added banking so they can carry as much speed as they want to through there. You can see how much the cars drift through this corner. The GTO's floating through the S's, and Cal Young with a very wide exit of the S's. I think Joni Hagner's too far back to make a move this time.
Yes, not on this occasion is he going to be able to make this move stick. He's hanging around 1.5 to 2 tenths behind, but Seamus Power running wide, it looks like, and he's going to slide off of the circuit. So for Seamus Power, that is going to be a huge disadvantage, and he's going to drop all the way to the back of this GTP field.
And Seamus Power picked up some damage. I'm trying to see where. He actually spun earlier on in the lap, just before that moment that we saw, and hit the outside wall, so he's already got hot tires to start off his race, unfortunately. We're riding on board with Mate Lorenzi as he gets passed by Joram Van Hicks. Joram Van Hicks trying to claw his way through the field after not setting a qualifying time.
Yes, they're both the championship leads are trying to do that as well, and it's been fascinating to see. Jacob Reed already up to that 12th place, so a great start from him, just managing to avoid a couple of the moves, making his way through, and we saw him do it in the Lotus 49s just a couple of weeks ago, and he's just trying to do the same thing here again and have a little bit of a showboat moment as Jacob Reed, and it is working out successfully at the moment. We're watching Lorenzi in this P10 spot at the moment, but I think there's the move. if there's going to be a move, I think it's going to be the position further up. I think it's going to be Van Heesch on Cloud. He's in 9th place and he's looking for that 8th place and not able to make it stick. Lesniak is going to make his way past Lundberg and he's up into that 6th. But is Lundberg going to fight it back? He's going to hold the inside potentially, but just choosing to back out. Lesniak running that little bit wide, but he manages to confirm 6th place.
Absolutely. So Lundberg falling back of Lesniak now. Remember, this is Lundberg's first race of the GTP in a couple of seasons, so we expect him to just run a fairly calm race. So Lesniak trying to push his way forward after the bad start that he had. GTO themselves are now going into the boot yet again. No position changes, as a lot of drivers just trying to relax a little bit, but the GTPs, looks like, I believe one of the GTPs hitting to the pits at his Seamus Power with that damage. But the GTPs about half a lap behind the GTOs at this stage. They should get to the GTOs by this time next lap.
Yes, and well, that would create a whole different scenario. The walls look like they're going to close in when they're trying to lap people, and they are desperate to get through. Gabriel Martinez looking for an inside line on Schwabig, but not able to make it through. And at the moment, currently sitting in that 3rd place, hoping to take it up to the top and do a real James Hunt style victory here today with the Playboy livery that he has on that car. He's right behind Schwabig at the moment, just 2/10 off. Lim is a whole second behind to the top 3, looking to scrap away as we head down the back straight.
Absolutely. Look at that. Much stronger on the brakes is Gabri, but unfortunately that puts him slow on the exit compared to Schwabig and Meccano. So you can see no, we actually don't have any damage from Schwabig, just as the way the livery is looking on that wing, on the bottom side of that wing. Didn't remember that you could paint that, but here we are. And Gabriel Martinez, good job putting some pressure onto Schwabig as Nick Meccano continues to lead, but he hits the outside wall on the exit of 1. That was what that puff of dust that you saw was. But he's trying to carry as much speed, trying to break away from Schwabig and Martinez.
Yes, at the moment it's working, 5/10 ahead, and he was 6/10 before that little moment with the wall, and he's trying to open that up once again. He's got the pace, certainly, as Van Hixie also has that pace in the middle of this GTO pack. He started at the back, but he's now worked his way to the middle and might work his way to slap bang in the middle. 6th place is what he's fighting over with Roman Bello, and he's got it very nice and easily. Now, has that opened up the door for Reed to make his way through? Not quite. And so Bello drops to that 7th place, but it doesn't get any worse for him at the moment. Van Hixing is 1.4 behind Jack Davis-Vickett at the moment as he launches his assault now on the top 5.
Absolutely, and here is Fabian Jungluth in 13th position, just trying to battle it out with Henry Morris and Philip Blake. Philip Blake tucked in behind. Philip Blake jumping into the GTP for this race as well. He's been running the GTO most of the season, so he decides to hop over to the GTP and give it a shot. I can also report that Gabriel Martinez and Hank Schwabig were side by side going into the carousel this lap. Schwabig just later on the brakes carried more speed through the corner and forced Martinez to fall back. The GTPs, they're now up to the back of the GTOs, and with this split, there's only 12 of the GTOs, and they're all compressed into one group. The last GTO driver, the first one they're going to get to, Tim Gaudry in the number 27 machine.
Yes, and they're not, well, they are catching up now, and they're not going to make very difficult work of that one heading into the first corner, but it might cost a little bit of time for Schwabig, who tries to get through. Martinez tries to get through on Schwabig as well, taking the opportunity. I think Schwabig would have been not paying that much attention because he was focusing on trying to get past the GTO car cleanly, and he's done so in the end, but it's come at the cost of his P2. And now with the rest of these cars, he's going to look to try and make his way back. This is going to be absolute carnage on the first time, but that they're going to try and get through. Schwabig looking for the even more inside line on Martinez. There's a car going wide in the GTO class, just trying to avoid the GTPs. I think he might have locked up just that little bit, and that is really, really not going to go well for Timothy Reed, who does drop down. Schwabig getting through some more of the cars, but Lim right on the back of him now.
Yeah, that was Timothy Reed getting the punt from Doug Cloud as Doug was looking in the mirrors and didn't realize that Timothy was going to brake when he did. But here come our GTP leaders past our GTO leaders for the first time, and that happened very quickly because of how compressed the GTOs are. But this GTP pack cutting through the GTO leaders, this is going to start to separate these battles. So Andreas Schuster trying to maintain the lead. Look how much time Schwabig has lost. He's just absolutely dropped like a rock from the drivers. But look at the chaos on screen as the GTPs all in a pack themselves, trying to cut through the GTO pack 3 wide into the final corner.
That was absolutely unbelievable. What a great move made. And they're going to continue to try and do the same thing, almost 4 wide, heading down the straight and heading towards the first corner. This is what you want to see in multi-class racing, really. The first class struggling to get through on the second, but it's not because any sort of racecraft going wrong. It's just absolute carnage. And Hagner did look for the inside of Young, but he saw the GTP coming and decided to back out of it. A GTP on the inside now of this GTO battle, and those two getting incredibly close to the back of Jani Hagner, but managing to avoid it, and Hagner still somehow fighting for this P2 as there's a battle for the race lead. Makanos and Martinez scrapping away, and I'm hoping that we're going to get the opportunity to see it. Yes, we are. Gabriel Martinez in the lead of this race. Makanos is going to look to the inside, but smartly decides to back out of it. He was nowhere near close enough, so Martinez taking the opportunity, and he now leads the race.
I knew Martinez had a good qualifying. I didn't realize that this was a good track for him. Absolutely cooking in that Playboy machine. Nick Makanos just unable to put the challenge to Martinez, outbreaks himself into the toe of the boot, and comes back out, and well, there, the heel of the boot, I should say, and comes back out, and he's going to lose more time to Martinez. So a good pass from Gabri through the exit of the carousel to just get the pass done on Nick, and now Nick just trying to cling on.
Yeah, and well, I think that the GTO class carnage is demonstrated in the fact that all the GTP drivers were very close together. Now, as we head down at the main straight, once again with only 10 minutes gone, there's now a 3-second gap between Schweibing and Grau, so that is a huge gap built up, and that's only because the overtake they're making on the drivers. Jacob Reed in 7th place, looking for that 6th. Alezniak is the car in front of him, and he's got Lim for company as well. This might get very interesting and very spicy. Alezniak pulls alongside Lim. Is Reed going to make the dive, or is he just going to try and follow Alezniak through with the momentum? He is going to follow him through, and he's going to try and fight his way through. It's all about getting that power down on the exit, and Lim holds on to the position for the time being. Reed goes the long way around, and is the green going to beat out the purple on this occasion? Still going to be fighting away, and it's still going to be side by side now into the 3rd corner, and Lim runs wide, and Morse might open up the opportunity and not Morse, but the car in behind is going to open up the opportunity to try and get into the battle as well. It's going to be Lüneburg, but still not taking the opportunity just yet. Jacob Reed up to 6th, and it might be 5th by the end of the next couple of corners.
It's Christoph Alezniak, and then all the way back to Matthias Hovdal in 10th position. That's Alezniak, Reed, Lim, Lundberg, Shady Ahmad, and Matthias Hovdal all tucked in underneath a 2.5 in this pack battle for 5th position as Alezniak leads the group. Jacob Reed tucked in behind Alezniak. Alezniak trying to claw himself forward up to Farron Grau, but he's about a second behind, trying to lose a little bit of the draft. Jacob Reed looking possibly to the inside of turn 1, thinks better of it. He's going to follow him through. Look how close they get as they nearly clip that hitbox, and being behind, it looks like Lundberg making a move on Brendan Lim through the S's, and here we come. You can see them side by side. Who's going to get the draft, though? It's going to be both of them, because up ahead, it's side by side between Jacob Reed and Christoph Alezniak.
Absolute carnage, and it will not stop here in the IMSA Vintage Series. Jacob Reed going for the move on Alezniak around the outside. A little bit wobble on the exit of the corner, but it looks like he might get this one done. Indeed he does, and he moves up into 5th place, still side by side for 7th between Lim and Morse. And well, it's Lüneburg trying to get in there as well in that 8th place. So these three scrapping incredibly hard over this 6th place, and Matthias Haverdal in that 10th place as well is fighting for that 10th and 11th with Henry Morse. So it does still continue on. This pack have fought their way back together, and they are absolutely using every single part of the track and sometimes every single part of the other car to just see if they can get ahead. Morse gets the exit, and he's past Haverdal, but I get the sense that this battle is nowhere near complete.
Extremely respectful racing on the edge of traction, on the edge of grip all the time. These drivers proving why IMSA Vintage is such an amazing community to be a part of. Absolutely just tackling this race with both hands, deciding that 26 minutes left, Yeah, now's the time to battle. The GTOs, very similarly, are packed together. Andreas Schuster leading the group over Cal Young. Joni Hagner having dropped behind Cal Young through the last straightaway. Jack David Spickett and Joran Van Hicks all tied into this first group. It's a 5-car train for the lead of the GTOs.
It certainly is at the moment, and well, the fights really haven't stopped so far in this first 15 minutes here in the IMSA Vintage Series here at Watkins Glen International, and they will continue on for the rest of the race. I would imagine Hagner has been on the back of Young for so incredibly long in this race, and Young still applying the pressure to Schuster, so he doesn't feel the need to pay much attention to Hagner at the moment, heading down the straight for what will be yet another time on this circuit, and they're gonna follow each other through, and they're going to remain in a train. These top few cars in this GTO class are just demonstrating exactly why they've managed to make it up here. The pace they're showing is incredible. The racecraft they've showed as well, not only to fight with each other, but also with the fighting GTPs trying to get through, is very, very good as well. And Joni Hagner getting a good exit out of the corner. Young getting Schuster, not a great exit, so he's going to come under pressure. The slipstream opens up for Young, as does the outside line, and Schuster keeping it very tight, holds the position. Young switches from the outside to the inside, just as a manoeuvre just to keep that momentum up and not open up the opportunity for Joni Hagner, as Jacob Reed, fastest lap of the race so far, 1:27.970. He's in 5th, and he's not too far off ground.
Now in the GTOs, you cannot adjust the wing angle. You can just trade out this wing that we see visually on screen for what I like to call a pizza holder, which is a 3-tiered wing for high downforce. These drivers obviously running the low wing setup today, and packed into one another, this top 5, is trying to hang on until the end of the race to start making moves, it looks like. Possibly some people trying to save fuel. I can report that Jacob Reed made it past Fair and Grouse, so Jacob Reed, he's now up 13 positions from the start of the race, and now he's got 3.5 seconds to close on Henrik Schreibig for the top 3.
Yeah, he and Van Hixie are demonstrating exactly why they are champions-elect, and Jacob Reed is actually the champion in GTP as it stands. But yeah, they are both cycling their way through the field. Van Hixie going from 12th to 5th in GTO, and Reed going from 18th to 4th in the GTP. So it's very, very, very good racecraft shown from the two, and good racecraft shown from everybody in the lower portions of the GTPs and the GTOs as well. The fact that they've been able to fight their way through, it's just testament to their driving ability, and it's going to continue on in the GTOs. I'd imagine Van Hixie is going to involve himself in the battle for this one at the moment, as Gabriel Martinez is, well, he set the fastest lap of the race. Jacob Reed did steal it off him, but he is 1.9, almost 2 seconds. It is now 2 seconds ahead of Meccano, so he has striven so well to hold on to that P1, and it looks like he's in prime position, unless he makes any significant mistakes, to take this one.
Yeah, and this is exactly what Jacob Reed didn't want to see, is trying to do his last and first challenge. Oh, look at this, Joni Hagner up the inside, or rather here's Mate Lorenzi in a nice battle behind with Doug Cloud and Hamilton Barrera Ruiz. We have battles all over the GTO field as these packs have decided to start fighting.
Yeah, Matteo Lorenzi in that GTO getting the move done, and Hagner finally looking for a chance around the outside of Young. It feels like he's been setting this one up for so long, so he doesn't want to bottle it here. Hagner on the outside line going through. Young, though, holding up a staunch defence and doing very well to hold on to that P2. This is going to cost them both time, not only to Schuster up ahead, which is now stretched out to 1 second, but also Jack David Spickett, who's just a tenth behind Hagner and might look for the move at some point soon. They're getting incredibly close on this circuit. Don't forget about Van Hixie as well, who's getting very close at the back of Jack David Spickett. This is about to light up.
And don't forget, our GTP drivers are cutting through the field now as well. Gabriel Martinez is going to catch up to these guys going through the S's, and that's going to cause either problems for Gabri or the other drivers. A little bit of a late throttle application there from JDS, which puts Joran Van Hicks right up the back of him. And here comes our leader, Gabriel Martinez, as he cuts through the field on the S's.
Yes, and it's going to get all so exciting as the GTPs catch up once again, and these drivers have to test their racecraft one more time. Schwebig is on the back of Meccano, is going to look for a move beast is now on the back of the car in number 2 and hoping to take that position away as the number 21 sweeps through the GTO field in behind. Are they going to lose any time getting through on the likes of Hagner? I'm not sure that Makanos is, but Schwabig certainly did. A couple of tenths dropped down, and Jacob Reed is trying to find his way, and you can see how desperate they are to get through. And you can also see the Lotus liveried Reed, who is paying homage to the Lotus that he drives in the other series as well, in some of the Formula cars. But he is now within 0.8 of a second of the podium positions, and he's come from 18th place, and he might get up to 3rd within the first half of this race.
Romain Bello in the GTO's got a little bit of a bump from Matthias Hovdal, which sent him into the outside of the carousel, so he's now got major front-end damage, is going to have to recover back to the pits, unfortunately, as we continue to watch the battle between Christopher Lesniak and Farron Grau for the top 5. This is for 5th position, and those two battling it out. Farther behind, you see this battle here between Brendan Lim, Noel Lundberg, Matthias Hovdal, Shady Ahmad, and Henry Morris, as they're all packed together 3 wide as they enter turn 1.
Yes, the fact that you've had to read out 5 cars demonstrates just how incredible this race is, and incredible it continues to be. Henry Morris looking for a gap, maybe down the middle of the 2 cars there. Going very, very well, going through on another car quite just there, getting squeezed all the way to the inside by the GTO, but it's not going to cost him any time at all as Shady Ahmed. And, well, Shady Ahmed's going to swap positions and move up one. Matthias Havdal is getting through on Noel Lundberg. So there are moves made, and at the moment, Havdal in that 10th place. But these 4 cars still scrapping it out on the circuit.
I can report our lead of the GTOs is just changing hands as well. Andreas Schuster and Cal Young side by side. Cal Young's going to come away with the better of it, as they got 3 wide with Phil Lake on the entrance to the boot. And so Cal Young swapping up to the lead of the GTOs, and that has brought the other 5 back into play. It's now Cal Young, Andreas Schuster, Joni Hagner, Joran Van Hixie, and Jack David Spickett.
Certainly is that top 5 in the GTOs. The GTPs is Martinez, Makanos, Schwabig, Reed, and Alejandro, and there's bigger gaps between those, but 2, 3, and 4 are still hotly contested, just like in here. But that involves 1 and 5, and this is Joran Van Hixie in that 4th place, looking to get through on Hagner and trying to get onto the podium positions. The 2 leaders of the championship that both started at the back of the field are both in 4th place and in prime position to move up a position. And Jacob Reed is going to pull to the inside now. Is he going to get through on Schwabig? Is he going to take the opportunity? He got the much better exit. He might get through before the next corner. Indeed, he does. And that is a very professional move from Jacob Reed.
How on earth has he caught up to Henning Schwabig so quickly? He was 3.6 seconds behind. The last we checked, that was just a lap and a half ago. Halfway through the race, he's up to 4th position, and he's only 5 seconds behind our leader, Gabri Martinez. This is going to be an unbelievable feat if he gets past Nick Makanos and makes his way up towards Gabri. He's got the time to do it, folks, but the lead of the race in the GTO is about to change hands again. Schuster and Cal Young side by side as they go through the carousel. These 2 drivers have been duking it out for the last couple of laps. As we continue to watch Jacob Reed make his progress on Nick Makanos, that will happen very shortly. But here is Schuster putting pressure on Cal Young. Van Hicks now up to 3rd position as he passed Joni Hagner. So Van Hicks and Jacob Reed are 2... Van Hixie and Jacob Reed are 2 championship hopefuls trying to push their way through. Look at this, though. Joni Hagner taking an opportunity of Joran Van Hixie making a little bit of a mistake into the toe of the boot, and he's going to try and challenge him at the heel of the boot under braking. Here we go.
Here we go then, Hagner on the inside, Van Hixie holding that outside line, hugging the curb, and well, he's still going to remain side by side. So that's 1, that's 2 corners that they remain side by side. They've got a GTP catching up to them, so I think it's now or never in terms of the move being made, and Hagner is going to make it now as to whether he's going to get back onto that podium. This is going to cost Van Hixie time, but Jacob Reed moves up to the 2nd place and now looks to launch his assault on Gabri Martinez. He was 6 tenths quicker on that previous lap, an unbelievable feat. And he's looking to just close right in now on Martinez for the lead of that race. And I wouldn't be surprised if he catches him within about 10 minutes.
Absolutely, I would agree that I think that's about the ballpark of when he's going to catch him. He has to make the pass. Martinez's tires are going to be spent. So are Jacob's. We know how good Jacob is on cold tires. All right, so here we go. Joran Van Hicks tucked in behind Joni Hagner. He's got Jack Davis picking for company, but look at this. He's pretty much pushing Hagner. In fact, he's going to bump draft him because they realize what's happening up ahead. Those two drivers are battling. This is their opportunity to get back into the fight for the lead as we see Andreas Schuster on the outside of Cal Young, but it's so hard to make that pass to the GTO. The infamous understeer of the GTO kicking in that all-wheel drive machine. Schuster unable to make that pass this time, but that has brought Joni Hagner and Joran Van Hicks back into play. They're able to stay in the draft of Young and Schuster.
Just 8 tenths behind as Jacob Reed sets the fastest lap of the race in the GTPs at 27.5 in comparison to Gabriel Martinez's 27.9. It's a 4-10 gain that he's got, but I think he's made a small mistake somewhere. Potentially he's caught up to some of the GTPs or the GTOs even, because he's lost 5 tenths in the first sector. So that is certainly not an ideal thing for him in his assault, and that might break the momentum slightly. This is the battle for third place just in behind him. And, well, I say battle for third place. Jacob Reed is still in this one, but it feels with the pace that he's got so far that they're not going to be able to catch up to him. And there we go. He's lost 3 tenths in that first sector, has Mikanos in that third place. So that just demonstrates the pace advantage that Reed has and why. I say it's the battle for P3 at the moment. Schwebig 2 tenths behind Mikanos, and is going to look for the opportunity on to this third place, and he's actually flashing him. He's trying to hurry Mikanos up here. He sees this as a potential loss of time that is going to cost him a fight with Jacob Reed.
Well, if he can chase Reed up to Gabriel Martinez, he's an opportunity at second place. I don't think anyone has any illusions about beating Reed today, just given his raw pace on this track, and we've seen it in seasons past how fast he is around here. But if you can stay attached to Schwebig, to Reed with all the speed, look at this. Once again, Van Hicksy giving the push to Joni Hagner. They feel like they're losing too much time to the 2 leaders ahead. They don't want to battle each other and lose out on an opportunity for a win, and that totally makes sense. I mean, it makes sense for Van Hicksy because he wants to get as many points as possible to protect his championship, even though it's a very low chance that he's going to lose it. But everyone's battling for the win of the race right now, Joseph. This is not about the championship anymore. This is about winning today. Yeah,
because the championship points are they're pretty big gaps, so you're not just worrying about that anymore. You're just worrying about the pride and ending off the season on a high. Andreas Schuster right in behind Cal Young and might get the opportunity into the next corner. He did get the momentum up, but he just decided to tuck in, decided to stay in behind for the time being. But yeah, I think these two are starting to become aware of the presence of Hagner, Van Hicksy and Jack David Spickett in third, fourth and fifth. And at the moment, they're just sitting there. They're just not fighting each other because they can see the time they're losing to Hagner. It stayed around 8 tenths on the last couple of laps, but that's only because Schuster and Young went side by side for 2 laps in a row into the same corner. So these two are just I think they've just got to settle into it now. 13 minutes left in the race, and I think they start to fight with about 3 minutes left to go. I think they start to fight in the final couple of laps, but I think it makes sense for them at the moment just to bump draft each other, as we've seen Hagner and Van Hicksy doing. And I think at the moment that should be what they do to try and build up that gap from 8 tenths. Speaking of gaps, and Jacob Reed has closed in to 3.1 behind Gabriel Martinez.
That is an insane pull on 1 lap. Now, Van Hicks, I think he's going to have to make the move on Hagner, and he goes for it. This is a wise choice. Hagner has been holding him back a little bit by a couple of tenths a lap, and even though Hagner has the respect of the field for being a legendary driver in this series, he just doesn't have the race pace today to keep up with those leaders. And Van Hicks has proven over the course of this race that he can cut through the field and gain time. And so here he is again. 1.3 seconds was the gap that was closed between Martinez and Jacob Reed on the last lap. And that's partly because the leaders of the GTPs, here is Gabriel Martinez already coming through on the GTO leaders. As you take a look at Noah Lundberg in his first race of the GTP in a couple of seasons, he's battling it out with Shady Ahmad and Matthias Hobdahl for 8th.
He certainly is. He's not had a gentle introduction, or reintroduction at least, back to the GTP field. But looking at Jacob Reed, and we're going to try and see how much how he gains so much time in every single one of these corners. As well, now he's just, look at the pace he's got. I know this is GTO cars, but this is just simply sensational. And the way that he's scything his way through them is like with no care in the world, and he gets through on another one and will get through on the next few, as he's now 3.8 behind. Yes, he's lost a bit of time, but that's natural when you catch up to the back of GTPs, and that's exactly what Martinez had on that previous lap when he did catch up to them. Henning Schweibig and Mecanos now catching up to the back of this field and looking for their way through. It's going to get very tight there, but Schweibig flashing his lights, making that GTO car aware that he was going to come through, and he came through very aggressively. He was never ever going to back out of that one, and Schweibig continues to follow through on Mecanos.
He's going to try and look for a mover on the outside here of the carousel. It's possible to do so, but Nick Mecanos carrying good speed through, brakes on the apex and covers off the apex from Schweibig making the move. Look at this, fading for an outside look, looks to the inside, nothing doing. Nick Mecanos did not bite on the late braking that time around, so he's going to have to stay back for yet another turn. The only opportunity he would have is through the toe of the boot, but we have to go back to this battle once again because the GTO leaders, Cal Young, Andreas Schuster, Joran Van Hicks, Yoni Hagner, Jack David Spick at the top 5 under a blanket yet again as the GTP field starts to cut through again.
They certainly do, and that's going to benefit Joran Van Hixie in terms of his catching up to Andreas Schuster. He's just a 2/10 behind. Schuster was a little bit late on the throttle on the exit just because of the GTPs that were trying to go through. He gave them a little bit of space, almost a little bit too much respect, because this is the battle at the top of the GTO class, so he is going to want to take everything that he possibly can and fight his way through. Van Hixie now right on the back of Schuster within 0.2 of a second. There's a GTP car on the outside, so he's not able to get the run and try and fall through, but he has to stay in that position now as there's another GTP just getting in the way. But yeah, it's looking all very tight as the GTPs go through and lap once again, but at the moment the order stays just as it is at the top of the GTOs.
Ben Hicks possibly had an opportunity for a move through turn 1, decides better of it. He's going to fall in through the S's. This is the most dangerous portion of the track for multiclass, the S's. The GTOs have to commit to the apexes, otherwise they lose a ton of time, and that's happening right now to everybody involved as the GTPs slicing their way through the field with no regard for the GTO's lines. It's already created an 0.8 of a gap between Cal Young and Andreas Schuster up ahead, and look at the chaos as they go through. Phil Lake tucked in right now in behind another GTP trying to cut his way through. As we take a look at Matthias Hovdahl, he's on the back of Noah Lundberg and Henry Morse as they themselves dive their way into the boot.
Yeah, and this fight is going to continue on all the way to the end of the race. I think it has done so far, and well, it's gone for half an hour, so why wouldn't it go for another 10 minutes just to finish off this race and to finish off this season here around the Watkins Glen International Circuit and in the IMSA Vintage Series. But it's going to be Matthias Hovdahl 0.4 off the back of Noel Lundberg, and Henry Moore still involved in the battle as well. He's going to be on a high after his second in the championship in the Lotuses earlier on today, and well, he's going to try and take a very, very different car with a very different handling model and very different everything overall up a position, as Mate Lorinci is going to drop down with Jacob Reed. Fastest lap again, a 27.2 is an absolutely unbelievable time. Just for reference, Nicholas Mecanos in behind went a whole second slower on that previous lap. So Jacob Reed is absolutely scything away at the gap up ahead. Mate Lorinci holding on to it ahead of Hamilton Barrera Ruiz, but he's going to run that little bit wide, and Barrera Ruiz is going to take the opportunity and try and come through, but they're still going to remain side by side. There is nothing between them as they head through the next few corners. Who's going to come out on top? Barrera Ruiz gets the exit, but the inside line is going to beckon for Mate Lorinci, who's through. Doug Cloud tries to get through as well, but there's a GTP there momentarily 4 wide, and it might be 4 wide again, but no, Doug Cloud just deciding to wait for the first corner, which is where he goes, and he's through. And we've also got Timothy Reed going through on Hamilton Barrera Ruiz, so Doug Cloud gaining 2 positions, Timothy Reed gaining 1, and Hamilton Barrera Ruiz dropping 3.
And up ahead, Andreas Schuster and Joran Van Hicks side by side as they go through the carousel. The two of them duking it out for second position, but they can't duke it out too long because they've got Cal Young to worry about up ahead, 5/10. Look at this. Look at that. Schuster parks it on Van Hicks. If Van Hicks says, all right, I'll just swap over to the other side, but they're losing time to Young. A little bit of contact again between Schuster and Van Hicks, and Schuster parks it on the apex one more time. Joni Hagner takes the opportunistic pass and sneaks his way through, but he gets out of the grass. Now it's Van Hicks who's going to go to the outside as Carlos Lopez C sneaks his way through 3 wide. Van Hicks is going to be unhappy right now. He's going to try and force the issue on Joni Hagner, but Joni Hagner holding strong on the outside. Van Hicks simmed the space to jump back on track here, and the two of them side by side as they exit the boot. These two have been duking it on all race, still banging doors they go again and again as Joni Hagner holds it, and he's gonna park it on the apex of Van Hicks. Van Hicks can get nowhere. Everyone's teaming up against him.
Yeah, Joni Hagner managing to make his way through on Van Hixie, and Jack David Spickett, who's been a spectator in all of this, might get the opportunity as they get a bit of a bad exit out of the final corner, but Van Hixie is following through. The GTPs are going to cost him a move to the inside, but Joran Van Hixie, with incredible pace, is just, he's being cost at the moment. I think Joni Hagner and him are just trying to, they're having a little bit of a scuffle. Van Hixie won't be happy with Hagner, but that's just the way that this race has gone so far. Van Hixie has, he's met his match in Joni Hagner for that final podium position, and he's going to keep fighting away with it as the fights in the GTOs have pretty much not stopped all race long. And Van Hixie on the inside line of Hagner now. He's going to try and hang it all the way around, and he's going to be squeezed right to the inside. Hagner says, if you dare. Van Hixie does dare, and he still holds that outside, but Joni Hagner parking it on the apex for the second lap in a row, and he holds that third place, but that does cost his exit, so Van Hixie alongside once again. But once again, Hagner is going to park it on the apex. This is incredible defensive driving.
Absolutely, and Van Hixie starting to push Hagner through the corners. They're losing more time to the drivers up ahead. It's about 8/10 between Hagner and Schuster at this stage. They can't keep doing this and be battling for the lead, but I think at this point, the grudge match really has begun between Hagner and Van Hixie. It's the two of them are just duking it out nose to tail. But let me tell you, that move from Schuster, parking it on the apex of the toe of the boot to force Van Hixie to lose the position to Joni Hagner, that has opened the door to Schuster to battle with Young for the lead of the GTO race. That was a move that made no friend of Van Hixie, but made an amazing opportunity for Schuster to try and duke it out for the lead. We take a look at the battle for third position off the back of Nick McConnell to the 007 cam, looking at Henning Schreibing for fourth spot.
Yes, it's fourth spot currently being hotly contested at the moment. This has been so hotly contested that they've actually built the gap up to 5.7 seconds between McCarnos and Jacob Reed, as Reed continues to close in on Gabri Martinez. 3/10 is what he's gained on that last lap, and he's now within 1.7 seconds. He's going to catch up, as I said, within 10 minutes of when he first past Vacanos and Schweibig for that third place, and I think it's going to be the last 2 laps of this race where the race lead, the overall race lead, is going to be scrapped out, as the race lead in the GTOs is also being scrapped out. Nicholas Vacanos holding P3, Schweibig in fourth place, and he's going to get the run. That's an incredible run that he's got, but he's not able to make his way through. Van Hixie is going to try and fight his way through Hagner as they still scrap it out for this third place. And the way that Young and Schuster have been fighting for the first 2 positions as well, they've managed to stay within range. They're actually somehow managing to gain on Young and Schuster on that previous lap, despite how aggressive their fighting has been.
And Henning Schreibig made the position on Nick McConnell. So he's going to go 3 wide through the toe of the boot. Are you crazy? He manages to make it work, but through this battling pack of the GTOs, you can see here comes Schreibig. Nick McConnell's trying to do the same thing. And I can't believe that everyone's pointing forward right now.
No, this has been a demonstration of exactly how to race around Watkins Glen, because not only has it been hard, aggressive racing, it's also been clean. Matej Lorenzi just behind Hamilton Barrera Ruiz for that 7th place in the GTP class, and Timothy Reed and Doug Cloud still in this one somehow. We've not watched this battle in a couple of laps, but somehow Doug Cloud has swapped all the way from the lead of the pack right back to the back again. That is how aggressive their fighting has been. Andreas Schuster trying to fight as Noel Lundberg is going to be the first driver to have issues in this race, I think, since Seamus Howard did. But it looks like we're going to have a red flag here in this circuit.
And so he was able to park it. So unfortunately for him, a black flag, and that it means that it looks like he ran out of fuel or something. But we're riding aboard with Doug Cloud as he's being absolutely side through by the GTPs as they snake their way up the track. Taking a look at the battles on track, it's still nose to tail for Van Hicks and Hagner. Hagner's got Van Hicks' number at this stage. Look at this, Doug Cloud just hanging on to the back. You can see him weaving the car. He's got a little bit of damage on the front end that he's going to have to contend with. But here's Jacob Reed. Okay, so we've been watching these crazy battles all over the place, and somehow Jacob Reed has caught up to Gabriel Martinez for the lead of this race. Now, it wasn't the 10 minutes we expected. It was 14, and with 2 minutes to go, Jacob Reed has his hands full to try and pass Gabriel Martinez on the final couple of laps.
He certainly does. He was almost exactly a second quicker on that previous lap. They're not going to have any traffic, so they are going to fight it out to the flag. And this is going to be absolutely incredible racing. Jacob Reed, who's done so well to fight from the back of the field, despite the issues all of the GTPs have had apart from Gabriel Martinez, and catch up to the back of the number 10 in the lead of the overall pack. 2 laps to go then here around the Watkins Glen International Circuit, and Jacob Reed is, well, he's putting on a masterclass, as is the drivers at the top of the GTO class, Cal Young and Andreas Schuster side by side. Schuster is going to try and go the long way around, but Cal Young holding position and holding firm. Jonny Hagner and Joran Van Hixie still there. Don't forget, Van Hixie started at the back of the pack as well, and he's looking to confirm his championship. And at the moment, those top 4, they could be in any order by the time we get to the end of the race. The final minute is ticked down. We've got 2 laps to go. Gabriel Martinez versus Jacob Reed. And then in GTOs, it's going to be Young, Schuster, Hagner and Van Hexie scrapping it out. And Schuster is going to get through on the back straight. The braking zone beckons for all 4 of these cars. And it looks like it's going to be Andreas Schuster who holds it. But the GTPs have caught up. It's side by side for Young and Schuster. It might well be 3 wide for the lead of this GTO class. And it's going to be Schuster who comes out on top.
And look at this. These 4 don't want to give up any time to one another as they have Matthias Hofdahl and Shady Ahmad duking it out for 8th positions. They're going to sneak their way through. That's going to actually take away the apex, or the exit rather, from Andreas Schuster. But Schuster able to hang on to it. Our leaders of the GTPs are on the final lap. We're going on to the final lap right now. Jacob Reed has not been able to close the gap to Gabriel Martinez. We'll keep our eyes on that in the picture-in-picture above as we continue to watch Cal Young versus Andreas Schuster for the lead of the GTOs. And Jonny Hagner is so stout on defending against Joran Van Hicks, he's losing his opportunity to become part of this lead battle.
It's almost a spiteful defense from Jonny Hagner as he decided that he really wants this podium and he really wants Joran Van Hixie, more importantly, to be off that podium. So Hagner waiting potentially for Schuster and Young to actually have an
Jacob Reed's gaining.
They fought so hard as Jacob Reed is gaining down the back straight. Is he going to get the opportunity? He's just that 10th behind, and he might get through on Gabriel Martinez. Only half a lap to go, and the top 2 in the GTPs scrapping it out all the way to the line. Jacob Reed with very much the momentum on his side, but Gabriel Martinez has had a kick up the backside on this final lap, and I think it's going to be enough to just hold on for Jacob Reed. Just that 10th behind. This could all swap over with one singular mistake on the final lap here at Watkins Glen.
Same with the GTO leaders as well, as we continue to watch the GTPs. Jacob Reed, that was his last big braking opportunity. The GTO leaders in the picture-in-picture above. They're on their final lap as well as the side-by-side as they go through the carousel. Looks like it's going to be Gabriel hanging up, but Jacob Reed with a late lunge under the brakes as they exit the boot. He's trying everything to get there, but he can't quite make it work. The GTOs as well. Jonny Hagner takes a dive at Cal Young. He's going to lose 3rd place to Joran Van Hicks. So Van Hicks moves his way up to 3rd. Gabriel Martinez on the power on the exit of the corner is going to take the win in the GTPs, and Jacob Reed 1 spot short of coming through on the back to first challenge. What a move. But what about the GTOs, Joseph? How are they going to finish this race?
Well, at the moment, it looks like Schuster's going to have that lead. Cal Young looking for the inside line in the final overtaking opportunity, and he's not going to get that chance. So I think Schuster is going to hold on to this one after some incredible side-by-side action. Van Hixie, in the meantime, has managed to make his way past Hagner, and he's finally gotten that spiteful podium off of Yoni, as that it looks like it's going to be the podium position. Schuster now is going to hold on, and is it going to be a mistake in the final corner for any of the top three, which opens up the door for anybody else? No, it's not. Andreas Schuster is going to be victorious. Cal Young in that second place, and Jeroen van Hixie going one step lower than Jacob Reed. They both did last to firsts, but it didn't quite pay off. But last to podium, still an incredible drive from them. Doug Cloud in 7th place, defending away like he has all race long from Mate Lorenzi, Hamilton, Barrera Ruiz, and Timothy Reed. And Doug Cloud, who's gone from last to first in this battle once again, he takes that 7th place. That is incredible drive from the top few in the GTPs, from the top few in the GTOs, and the bottom few in the GTOs as well. That's the way you want to end off a season.
Absolutely. The IMSA Vintage series showing us exactly why they love this track and the knowledge of the cars that they have. You saw it here, folks, just how close all of the battles were, how much on the edge the drivers were pushing the cars. Unbelievable finish here, and our results for the Nissan GTPs. Gabby Martinez able to hang on after Jacob Reed made one mistake throughout that race, and that was the decider. He lost about 2 laps of opportunity to challenge Gabby Martinez and lost by 0.5 of a second, half of a second to Gabby Martinez. Henrik Freiberg able to stay ahead of Nick Makanos after Nick Makanos made some contact actually with Cal Young to start the final lap. So he ends up in 4th position. Christoph Lesniak ends up only 4/10 behind Nick Makanos at the end of that race. Shady Ahmad able to keep hold of 6th position over Matthias Hobval by 3/10 as well. There were just so many places to look at that final lap. We even missed these couple of tight battles. Fabian Jungluth able to hang on to 8th position over Ilka Kodasalo, also separated by less than a second. Then Philip Lake, less than 2/10 behind Ilka Kodasalo as well, comes home to finish the race. Carlos Lopez C is a distant 11th position, with Farron Grau less than 10 seconds behind him, the last driver on the lead lap. Brendan Lim, Joe Petchik, Henry Morse, and Seamus Power were the drivers 1 lap down. Then Noah Lundberg had that issue. Looked like he possibly was out of fuel or had a mechanical issue. He ended up finishing the race 2 laps early, and then Antonio Alvarez rounds out the GTPs. He struggled to finish as well. What about the GTOs, Joseph?
Andreas Schuster took the victory in that one. 4 drivers finishing within a second of each other. Cal Young in second. Jeroen van Hixie, who I can't speak now. That was so chaotic. I can't speak. Jeroen van Hixie in that 3rd place, and Jenny Hagner 4th within a second of that leader. Jack David Spickett in 5th, somehow dropping off at the end. I think it just got a little bit too much for him, as he was a spectator for the majority of the action. Ian Haycock's 15 seconds off Spickett, showing the pace of the top 5. Doug Cloud, Mate Lorenzi, Hamilton, Barrera Ruiz, and Timothy Reed put up an incredible fight for 7th, and it is finishing in that order. And again, they finished just within 1.5 seconds of each other. And then Tim Gaudry in that 11th place, and Roman Bello not finishing the race, but absolute carnage out on that circuit, and that is just one of the best races I have ever seen.
Joseph, what a way to finish out the season for IMSA Vintage. The points may not have been on the line, but that made no difference to the quality of the racing we saw out there today. Unbelievable racing from all these drivers, tight battles, respectful fighting, and my goodness, that battle between Van Hixie and Jody Hagner, that was some of the tensest defense I've seen all season.
That was it was so good. It was such a good defense, and unfortunately for him, it didn't come off. He wasn't able to snatch that position off in the end, that 3rd place in his class. So I think he'll be naturally disappointed, but the performance he put up, it was so good. It was unlucky, in fact, that he was not able to get on that podium, but the top 4, all deserving the win today, I think, in the GTOs. And, shout out to Jacob Reed. He certainly deserved that victory in the GTPs, but as did Gabby Martinez. You make your own luck, and he made his luck with the lapping traffic on the first few laps, and he was just able to blast away from there.
Absolutely. He was able to break the draft to Schreibig and Makanos and was able to pull away, forcing Jacob Reed to have to pass the 2 of them. And the lap he passed the 2 of them was the lap where he made that mistake, and he lost that second and a half. And I think that really was the kicker. Joseph, that might have been the difference between him being able to battle for a couple of laps.
Yeah, it was just, it was so incredible. And I think there was so much that would have cost you that, like, at this point, when there's no mistakes being made by any of the leaders, it's all going to come down to who is the most exceptional, who maybe doesn't have the luck on his side. And Joran van Hixie at that point, he didn't have the luck with how Joni Hagner was defending, and he wanted that. He wanted those first couple of positions, and well, it was absolutely incredible in the end, that drive, and they all should be very proud of themselves for the way they drove in that season finale. And well, those viewers watching at home, they'll be begging for the next season.
Yeah, viewers watching at home like Cam Porter, Craig, nice to see you again, Craig. We wish you and your family well. Jack Wells, as well as Amelia DeChari, all aside from Craig being a commentator, all drivers, former drivers, or drivers taking a break from the series in the chat. Nice to see all of you. I'm glad that you're here to join us for such an amazing race, and we hope to be back next season to cover more of this amazing battling. The season has been such a challenge for all the drivers, with the many different splits and the challenges that they all face, but what an amazing final round to leave us off on a high. And we want to give a big thank you to IMSA Vintage for bringing us on for this season. And I want to thank the team this season: Craig, Steven, Jake, Joseph, Christian, and Dougie. Also, make sure to check out our social media and website. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Next up on GSRC is the Majors Series European Region at Petit Le Mans. That is tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern. And don't miss the other upcoming races here on your screen. We hope you've enjoyed joining us this season as much as we've enjoyed bringing this racing to you. And we hope to see you, IMSA Vintage, and its fans back again soon. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.
This is iRacing.